Hello students, today we are going to discuss a relatively easier subject which is more on theory side. There is no numerical as such in this chapter. It is so much theory that I need to open the book so that I can give you some definitions also in between. The heading, as you can see, it's called magnetic classification of substance. That means we are going to classify materials based on magnetic properties. And the major three classifications are diamagnetic, paramagnetic and ferromagnetic substance. Okay. Now on what basis we classify them? We classify them on the basis of how they behave in a magnetic field. Okay. But what makes them to behave in that manner? So I will slightly go back in the past of these materials and then we will come back again and then we will see the behavior of these materials in the magnetic field. Remember, why is not important. How they behave in magnetic field is important for of our syllabus of ISC, okay, but still we will try to focus on the why part, why they do behave like this. Now, for that you just remember the symbol. This symbol, if you have done in chemistry, we call it a spin half, spin minus half. Okay. Now, if you observe the atom, what is there in the atom? In the atom, in the surrounding, there is a nucleus. Okay, fantastic. Outside we have electrons orbiting and also spinning. There is a spin of electrons. And the magnetic moment comes from this orbital movement and magnetic moment. Both contributes towards the magnetic moment. Orbital movement of electrons contributes less towards magnetic moment, and the spin magnetic moment contributes more towards the magnetic moment. But what about classification? In diamagnetic, the net magnetic moment of each atom is zero. That means if one electron is creating a magnetic moment in this direction, there will be another electron creating a magnetic moment in this direction. So this and this will cancel each other or neutralize each other. They are perfectly neutral. We will not do anything as per the magnet is concerned. Okay, nothing. No magnetic moment at all. Net magnetic moment here of the atoms are zero. Okay. Now we will see what happens to those. Now I can share some examples of diamagnetic substance. Diamagnetic substances are like bismuth, zinc, copper. In YouTube you can go and if you see the other channels, you can see there is an experiment happening. There is a bismuth on object made up of bismuth, and the moment you bring the magnet, it repels, it rotates away from it. Amazing. Okay, it rotates away from it. Okay. Water also comes under this category of diamagnetic substance. Gold is there, mercury is there. All this is in the book. You can make a note of this. Paramagnetic substance. The second one is paramagnetic substance. Okay. In paramagnetic substance, these are those substances for which each atom has a net magnetic moment. They have some magnetic moment. Okay. So if I consider the substance, so each atom. So suppose this atom is having a net magnetic moment in this direction. This one is having a net magnetic moment. This one is having net. 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 So each atom has some direction of magnetic. You can say that this is not random. Okay, so each atom has a net direction of magnetic moment. Okay. So when you go and place that in a magnetic field, we will see what is going to happen. Ferromagnetic, what happens? They are the most loved by the magnets. The ferromagnetics are what happens? Yes, they do have magnetic moment, but the magnetic moment they exist in domain. Correct? Like for example, if I can just imagine a domain over here. Let us say I am just for the sake of looks good feel factor, I am drawing a domain like this. So this is one domain. In this domain, whichever atoms are present, all will have a magnetic moment in this direction. In this domain, whichever atoms are present, all will have domain. Let us say in this direction. 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 Okay. So they exist in domain. So here they are scattered. Each atom has a scattered magnetic moment, but here each atom over here, if there are 10 atoms over here, all those 10 atoms will have a magnetic moment in this direction. So this is how they are present in ferromagnetic substance. Ferromagnetic substances are like the most appreciated one is the magnetite. It's a compound Fe3O4. But you have iron also, nickel also, cobalt also as ferromagnetic substances. Okay. Now, We have understood the magnetic moment here. They don't have any amount of magnetic moment. Each atom has magnetic moment. Each domain has magnetic moment. Now what happens when you go and put them in a magnetic field? When you go and move them in a magnetic field, diamagnetic substance gets repelled. They don't try to align. For example, just imagine I have a magnetic field over here. This is my magnetic field. This is a magnetic field. This is a magnetic field. So when you go and place a diamagnetic substance, so suppose this is my diamagnetic substance, then diamagnetic substance will not align in the direction of magnetic field. They prefer to remain like this. Okay? They will not align in the direction of magnetic field. We say that they repel, they get repelled from the magnetic field. They will not align in the direction of magnetic field. Now suppose if I have a paramagnetic substance in this shape, what will happen to these paramagnetic substances? This paramagnetic substance will get aligned in the direction of magnetic field. Okay? What about ferromagnetic substance? Ferromagnetic substance will also get aligned in the direction of magnetic field. So if I consider that this is the north pole of the external magnetic field and this is the south pole of the external magnetic field. So because field runs from north pole to south pole, so this, because of the magnetic moment, it will have its own polarity. Because of the magnetic moment, it will have its own polarity, so it will get attracted. That means this is the north pole of the ferromagnetic substance and this is the south pole of the ferromagnetic substance. Similarly, if this is the north and the south of external field, then this is the south pole of the magnetic substance and this is the north pole of the magnetic substance. It gets to try to get aligned. Okay. Why do they don't align? Because of Lenz's law. Okay, we will not discuss that part. And there is no way you are going to find. Obviously, if you read the book, you will get the answer. It's just because where is the Lenz's law? If you remember class 10, those who don't remember this class, the Lenz's law will be discussed in electromagnetic induction chapter also. It tends to oppose the cause of change in flux. Okay, that's the concept of Lenz's law. Okay. So what happens when you put that in the magnetic field? Remember when you have a spin up and spin down. Let us say I have one electron spin up, other electron spin down. The spin up has a magnetic moment for our simplicity. Let us say spin up has a magnetic moment in this direction and spin down has a magnetic moment in this direction. So as soon as you create a magnetic field, let us say upward magnetic field. Now what happens when you create an upward magnetic field? The one which is in the same direction tries to slow down. The motion tries to slow down, okay, and the one which is opposite in the magnetic field, it tries to gain up, okay. So ultimately, it creates a net force it creates a net moment in the opposite direction, okay. So if I have a field in this direction, external field, let us say from outside, this is my external field. So the one which is trying to create a magnetic moment upward tries to slow down, and the one which was creating more magnetic moment opposite, they try to gain up. So the magnetic moment in the opposite direction increases and hence they are repelled. Now why it does that? Because of Lenz's law. Okay, that's the reason I can right now give you, but don't worry, it is not in the syllabus. Okay, which says Lenz's law says that it tries to oppose the cause. Okay, that much is enough. Okay, what happens over here? Here they already have a magnetic moment. So as soon as you put that in a magnetic field, they try to get aligned in the direction of magnetic field. So they try to rotate and try to get aligned in the direction of magnetic field. Here what happens? Here it is the magnetic field. Here the domain expands. There are two ways. When ferromagnetic aligns in the direction of external magnetic field, there are two ways it can align. Okay, and both are good ways. Anyone, a given substance will opt for one way. Okay, but there are two ways. One way is, so suppose if this is the domain is in this direction having a magnetic moment, so and the field is also in this direction. So what happens? This domain will start expanding and will kill all other and will let all atoms to align in this direction only. So it's called domain expansion. it will start getting expanded. It will start expanded. Okay. Other way is in each domain they will align in the direction of external magnetic field. That means what I mean to say here is in each domain everyone will get aligned in the direction of external magnetic field, and this is the most favorable one. I mean, ferromagnetic as a whole is the most favorable one as a domain expansion of this. They align very fast. So if I say the difference between para and ferro, they get attracted in magnetic field, external magnetic field. They get strongly attracted in external magnetic field. They align in the direction of magnetic field. They quickly align in the direction of magnetic field, or the strongly gets aligned in the direction of magnetic field. Okay. Other terms of there is one more way to represent. So suppose if this is my diamagnetic substance. So initially, if the fields are like this, when the moment you place the diamagnetic substance, the field gets repelled like this. Okay. They get repelled like this. What about paramagnetic substance? Paramagnetic substance. So if I consider that initially the field the fields are like this, and like this. So when you create a paramagnetic substance, the field gets attracted. It shows attraction. This is for paramagnetic. And what about for ferromagnetic? The attraction is very strong. So you can see here the field lines gets compact. I mean, they come very close. Okay. So that's how they will ask you to draw the field variation also. Now let's talk about some definitions. Something which we need to know now. So this is all about the molecular, the atomic basis of diamagnetic, paramagnetic, and paramagnetic. They repel, they attract, strongly attract. Okay. No magnetic moment. Each atom has magnetic moment, and then they align. Each domain has magnetic moment, and then they align in two different possible ways. One is domain expansion, and other is domain alignment. All will align in the same direction. So we will quickly see, okay, some important definitions, and we will use the definition prescribed by the ISC books only, so that there will be no clash. The first one is there are many basically. The first one is intensity of magnetization. So number one. Intensity of magnetization is defined as capital M. Okay. Now, what are the things you have to know? You have to know its definition. Okay, and then you have to also know the SI unit of this. The first thing is the SI unit. Let me complete this part. SI unit is ampere meter inverse. Ampere meter inverse. And what does it mean? It means M divided by V. What is M? M is magnetic moment. M is magnetic moment and V is volume. So what does it measure? Intensity of magnetization. It goes like this. It is defined as the magnetic moment per unit volume of the magnetic substance. That means how many magnetic moment do I have per unit volume? What does it mean? It means the more I have, the good material it is as magnetic substance. The lesser I have is not so good as a magnetic substance. Okay. So in a given volume, how many magnetic moments do I have? That is the first thing which we need to know. That is called intensity of magnetization M. Second one is magnetic induction. No, I generally prefer to teach the H part first. What is H? The H part is magnetic intensity. These are all confusing names. Intensity of magnetism and magnetic intensity. Defined as H. It has one more name, magnetic field strength. It has one more name called magnetic field strength. This is called H. What does it define? It is defined as, okay, first I will deal with the SI unit. The SI unit is same as that of M. So same as that of M. So SI unit is ampere meter inverse. Now what exactly is H? H is what we call the magnetic intensity. H is defined through the vector relation. Okay, it is defined through a vector relation. Basically, why I prefer to say here H is this. There are three things going to happen right now. There will be an external field. There will be a magnetic moment in a substance, due to which there will be a total field getting developed inside the substance. Three things. There will be an external field. There will be a magnetic moment because of which they will get aligned, and there will be a total field inside the substance. So H is basically that outside part, the external field. Okay. So if you go through a definition, there is no such definition. Because we use this definition in a vector relation. Okay. And that vector relation is like this. If you want to write, you can write. Is B by mu naught minus M, and this will be clear to you slowly. So this is magnetic intensity, magnetic field strength, something to do with the external field, This is how you remember it. And what about the one is the B. What is B? B is defined as magnetic induction. This is called magnetic induction. What exactly is magnetic induction? Magnetic induction means it is defined as the number of magnetic lines of induction inside a magnetized substance crossing unit area normal to the direction is called magnetic or magnetic induction or magnetic flux density inside the substance. That means inside the substance, how much field it has. Remember, ferromagnetic has more magnetic induction than paramagnetic. Okay. So if it is more concentrated, more number of fields are passing to the substance, then we call that as having more magnetic induction. Okay. It has a SI unit, and the SI unit of magnetic induction is Tesla. SI unit is Tesla. Okay. And these are all other twos are ampere meter inverse, ampere meter inverse. Now try to understand this. And how to try to understand this? You have to understand this in this manner. B, right? B equals to H plus M. So take this M on this side, mu naught, and then multiply the mu naught part, and then you multiply the mu naught part. Okay. Okay. Now look at here. What is happening here? What has happened here, and what it is going to give? This was the magnetic moment per unit volume. So each one will try to align in the direction of magnetic field, So each loop will create its own small magnetic field when they are trying to get aligned. Okay. What will happen now? From outside, I am already getting a H, which is trying to align the other fields. So if I consider that all these has a small fields, then this small fields along with the field of external will add up and will give a total field, and that total field is what we call as D. Okay, and that is what is shown over here. So more packed, that means more was the alignment, good was the alignment, more was the magnetic moment per unit volume, all these things. So B is the total inside a substance, H is the external part, M is the internal component. So internal component plus external component equal to total component. This is how you have to remember it. Okay, and remember these two are not field which we learned. Tesla is a field unit. These two have ampere meter inverse. When get multiplied by mu naught, then it attains a unit of Tesla. Okay, so if you consider this. This has a unit of Tesla. This has a unit of Tesla. Okay. Okay, moving ahead. is the concept of mu. Fourth, the concept of mu. What exactly is mu? Mu is, it's a ratio basically. You know why this ratio is important? See, I am having something from outside as external, and I am getting a total of B. Then the ratio becomes important. The ratio becomes important. If I give less, more is getting built up. Very good. If I am giving less, giving more, and less is getting built up. Still very good, but at least you are getting some idea. Okay, so mu basically gives you an idea that how much I am getting inside a substance overall total when I supply H amount of field from the outside. So this is from outside and this is from the out. You can say total. So it really gives you in the concept of how much is getting built up inside and how much I am providing from outside. So that ratio B by H. This mu is called magnetic permeability. It's called magnetic permeability. Okay, this also has a unit because B and H don't have the same unit. So the SI unit of permeability is Newton ampere. It has many SI units. It has many. It has Newton per ampere square. And then you have Tesla meter ampere. You have Tesla meter ampere inverse, okay, or Weber ampere meter inverse, or Weber ampere inverse meter inverse. Okay, all these are SI units of magnetic permeability. Then you have magnetic susceptibility. Number 5, magnetic susceptibility. This again is a ratio we call as xm, xi m, we call as xi m. Okay. If you wish to write m, you can write m. If you don't wish to write m, it's okay, no problem. It's again a ratio between m and h. How much magnetic moment per unit volume is present, and this is my external field I am going to supply. So, and definitely these two should have some relation, and we are coming to that part very soon. Then we have something called relative permeability. Relative permeability is permeability of any medium divided by permeability in free space. This is called relative permeability. Okay, this is also very important. Okay, now let's do it. H, if you remember in vector form, was given as B by mu naught minus M. This is what I told you. This can be now written as B equals to mu naught H plus mu naught M. Can I write B? Can I write mu into H as B? Okay, and mu naught into M. Okay, we will come to that part. So what we are going to do now is we are going to get a very quick derivations from this entire thing. So the first thing which I will do is I will get rid of M. Yes. So mu naught H plus mu naught M. M is how much? M is xi M multiplied by H. So I can see here that if I take mu naught into H common, I am left with 1 plus xi. Okay, but I also know that this also employs but I know that B is equal to mu times of H. B is equal to permeability times of H. Okay, but this is mu naught times of H, 1 plus xi M. So if I compare this with B equals to mu naught times of H, on comparing, what will I get? I will get, on comparing, I'll just so remember from here I went to here. Okay, you write here only, but B equals to mu times of H, and you rub this part, and now you write on comparing B equal to mu H and B equal to mu H, I will get, what will I get? Mu naught H 1 plus xi m. B equals to mu times of H, so H gets cancelled out, mu naught will get cancelled out. Wait, this is mu. So H and H will get cancelled out, B and B will get cancelled out. So that means mu should be equal to mu naught times of 1 plus xi m. Okay. Now if you look at here very carefully, this implies mu equals to mu naught times of mu r. Can you see that? Where r is called relative permeability. That means this 1 plus xi m, this is mu, this is mu. Then you have mu naught, and you have mu naught. That means this should be equal to relative permeability. So I got a relation of relative permeability, and that is equal to 1 plus xi m. And now the IC question, which are very prominent. What is the estimated order of xi and mu for magnetic substances like diamagnetic, paramagnetic, and ferromagnetic? Okay, so what is happening here is I'll just write here as dia. I no longer need this. So here I will write dia. This is very important. Diamagnetic, paramagnetic, and ferromagnetic. Okay. So for diamagnetic, let us consider this to be the value of xi m. Okay, and then I will come to the value of mu r. This is very extremely important part because they have asked many of them. So for dia, the value of xi, okay, substance having small negative values. Substance having small negative values or xi m. So here for dia, the value of xi m is less than 0. The moment it is less than 0, that means I am referring to negative values. Okay, small negative values like minus 0.1, minus 0.2, minus 1, all this small value. Value of xi m is more than 0, positive. And for ferro, value of xi m is very, very greater than 0. 100, 200, and so on. Okay, and this is like plus 1, plus 2, and so on. Okay. Now over here, this is the catch over here. It's called 1 plus xi m. What it says, and this remember this xi m is very less than 0, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, negative 0.1, negative 0.2. So when you are comparing mu r, we compare mu r as for this one, mu r as less than 1. Is less than, just imagine xi m as minus 0.2. What will you get? You will get 0.8. It is more than 1 but less than 1. So mu r is less than 1, and here we write mu r is greater than 1, and here we write mu r is very, very greater than 1. So sometimes they will talk you to write this part, sometimes they will tell you to write this part. Okay, when you are writing this part, here we compare with 0, 0, 0, here we compare with 1, 1, 1. Okay, mu r is slightly less than 1 for diamagnetic, slightly more than 1 for paramagnetic, and very, very less than 1 for ferromagnetic substance for mu r. And now quickly 5 more minutes, and then we will wind up this chapter also. The last thing which will take not more than 5 minutes is the concept of temperature. Are we relying on, are these phenomena depending upon temperature? Answer is yes. Okay, for the first one, answer is no. Diamagnetic, no. Temperature plays no role. So when I plot the xi m versus T graph, it remains straight. Susceptibility, when I plot with respect to temperature, the susceptibility does not change at all. It remains same. So that clearly signifies that diamagnetism Diamagnetism is independent of temperature. Make a note of this. Diamagnetism is independent of temperature. Okay. Then we have paramagnetism. Paramagnetism is governed by Xi versus T. It is governed by Curie's law. Who is governing this? Curie's law. What does Curie's law say? Curie's law says that magnetic moment per unit volume is directly proportional to h and inversely proportional to t, and where c is some constant. Okay. Now when I take h on this side, I will get m divided by h is equal to c divided by t, and m by h is our famous relation, and that is equal to xi m. So xi m is equal to c by t, and you can see here now we are getting the result that xi m is inversely proportional to 1 by t. Okay. So as per Curie's laws is defined, magnetism, the magnetic moment per unit volume is directly proportional to the intensity of magnetization and inversely proportional to intensity of magnetic field, and this is called intensity of magnetization. Okay. This is called magnetic intensity, and this is intensity of magnetization. So intensity of magnetization, that means magnetic moment per unit volume, is directly proportional to the magnetic intensity. This was found by Curie, and the relation is like this: 1 by t curve. Okay, so it falls. What does it mean? That is more important. That is, it has so much of theory, so we tend to lose the physical meaning over here. See, what does it mean? It means that as the temperature is increased, the susceptibility decreases. The susceptibility decreases. Okay, that means it starts losing the attraction towards the magnetic field. It becomes smaller and smaller. Why it is happening? Because as we increase the temperature, we are providing more and more random motion to the electron. Electrons are agitated, so the randomness increases. So you make it cool, the randomness decreases. Okay, the thermal agitation decreases, and then you can quickly align them. It's just like a teacher entering into a class. If the class is at peace, at silent, the teacher is able to translate very properly. Okay, and just imagine I am not able to align towards what I want to show. Okay, so remember that the whole logic. So if the randomness is less, alignment becomes easier. If the randomness is more, alignment becomes difficult. The last one is ferromagnetism. Ferromagnetism is governed by Curie's Weiss law. I will get the spelling wrong definitely. Curie, W-E-I-S-S, Curie's Weiss law. And it has Curie's temperature. So if I plot the xi m over here, and this is the temperature over here, so at one particular point it starts showing a transition, and this is called Curie's temperature. This Tc is called Curie's temperature. This they ask, Curie's temperature. So what exactly is Curie's temperature? So beyond this one, this is ferro, and this is para. This is region 1 and region 2. So the temperature beyond Tc is called, the substance will behave as a paramagnetism, and the temperature below Tc, the substance will become or to behave like a ferromagnetism. That means what? Let us say iron. Iron can behave both ways. It is a paramagnetic. It is a you can say ferromagnetic substance, but it can behave as a paramagnetic substance also when you start heating it up. So what exactly is Tc? Tc is a Curie's temperature. What does it say? It says that at a very cold temperature, the substance will behave as a ferromagnetism. Okay, that means element is very good, fast, everything. And then as you start heating the temperature, as you start increasing the temperature slowly and slowly and slowly, when it crosses a particular temperature called Curie temperature. Curie temperature is different for different substances. Iron has different temperature. For iron is 770 degrees Celsius. So when you start heating it beyond 770 degrees Celsius for iron, the iron becomes paramagnetism. Okay. So Curie temperature is that temperature above which the substance behaves as para, below which it behaves as a ferromagnetism. Okay. This is what this chapter talks about. Other things it talks about is what I will share notes on that. It's called about corrosivity, retentivity, and the selection of materials to make transformer core and something. So core of a transformer, what kind of material you will select, and all those things we will discuss in the next lecture. Okay. Thank you for watching. The video is long. Please do watch.